Okay, we're live. The meeting is yours, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting for June 24th, 2021 to order. Will you do roll call, please, with location?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Magro,
Here, Milford.
Kashkarian,
Here, Milford.
Davis,
Here, Milford.
Debris,
Here, Milford.
Rishka, will be late, Mazera,
Here in Milford.
Latka,
Here in Milford.
Malin,
Here, Milford.
and Gilo.
Here in Milford.
You have a full quorum except for your vice chair will be late.
Okay, thank you very much. Has everybody had a chance to look over the agenda as written? I assume we have. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
So moved.
Did I get a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The agenda is approved. Can we get a zoning board of appeals update?
Yes, last meeting was June 9th. We had one item on the docket. V 21-005, location is 2550 Old Plank Road. It's in the R1R zoning district. Ordinance number 196, section 32-582, subset 3. Milford Township ordinance requires that all fences located within the front yard setback be decorative fencing. The applicant proposes a non-decorative fence located in the front yard of an existing home. The applicant had not marked off where the proposed fence would be located. Therefore, the applicant and the ZBA agreed to postpone the review until the fence was properly marked off and posted, and we could reschedule the variance request, which will probably be next month. And that was it.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Bill, can we have the township board report? Probably need to unmute.
Now we had two items for a meeting. One was the revision of the meeting dates from our last meeting, and also then the board did approve the conceptual drawings and the PUD definition for Milford Crossing as recommended by the Planning Commission without change.
Okay.
Is that
Very good, thank you. At this time, I'd like to make a call to the public for non-agenda items.
We have a few callers. Callers, if you would like to make a comment, press *9 on your keypad and we will call on you.
They know it's for non-agenda items.
Okay, yes, for non-agenda items.
Okay.
No hands raised at the moment.
Yes, hello.
Yes, hello, 2921. Did you want to make a comment?
Well, I came to be at the meeting and everything's locked up here. I'm sitting in the lobby of the township office. I was wondering if you're inside or not.
No, we're all virtual.
Okay, then I'll go back on mute unless I have a question. Thank you.
Okay,
Very good.
sorry about that. Next month we'll be in there. Okay, having no public comments, I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing on zoning ordinance amendment, chapter 32.2, 32.476, 32.477, 32.480, 32.609 of ordinance 101. Can I get a motion?
I so moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Probably need to do a roll call vote on this, Wendy?
Jennifer, you need a roll call vote to open this, Jennifer. I'll try again. You need a roll call vote to open this, Jennifer?
Jennifer, you're muted.
I can't.
Roll call vote.
Thank you.
Ah, can't wait for this to end.
Oh, it won't be long now, will it?
No.
Okay, I have it right here. Let's go with Gilo,
Approved.
Malin,
Yes.
Latka,
Yes.
Mazzara,
Yes.
DeVry,
yes,
Davis,
Yes.
Kashkarian,
Yes.
Magro.
Yes. Okay,
And I was just going to say Rishka, I don't think she's here yet.
okay, the public hearing is open on the zoning ordinance amendment. Do you have anything to read? Is this the one that we got the letter on?
It is. I have one letter and it is from the Ambroses. And they are opposed to some of the language that is in the revisions for the draft ordinance. They do have 2 tax ID numbers in the area and they have sold them on land contract.
Okay. Right. Do we have any other folks in the who are on the phones who would like to make a comment on the zoning
Yes.
ordinance as read?
We do have one hand raised. Caller 2997. Press *6 on your keypad to unmute yourself. Then state your name and address for the record.
Yes. Hello, Planning Commission members. This is Attorney Abby Cooper. I am an attorney in Brighton. My address is 7900 Grand River. I'm here to speak on behalf of a group of M2 property owners. I have a group that consists of at least 5 members at this point. We are a group of growing members. The members oppose the regulation of outside storage as is proposed. We're requesting the opportunity to participate with the township attorney and planning commission members to address the concerns and perceived problems with this kind of use. Most of my members in the group just heard about this regulation and the concerns of the township, and they just haven't had a chance to respond. Some considerations thus far, though, in the conversations we have had that we're requesting that Planning Commission take into account and allow additional time to discuss is the prohibition of a principal use without a building in the sewer and water district. That may make some sense to encourage buildings and tap-ins on these properties. But where there is no water and sewer, those property owners need options to utilize their property. The language as proposed appears to ban even in the non-sewer district non-sewer and water district, where those properties are adjacent to residentially zoned properties. But in the statement of purpose as proposed, the purpose seems to be to have the outside storage use as a principal use only not allowed in the water and sewer district. But then when you get deeper into the proposed amendments, there's this additional language of also not if the M2 property is adjacent to a residential property. So it doesn't seem to be that that's the intent of what's going on. And so the property owners in the M2 district are open to the concern of the Planning Commission. If we need to talk about screening, let's talk about screening. If it needs to be prohibited within a certain number of feet of a residential dwelling or residential use, we can talk about that as well. There's a lot of ways to address, from my client's perspective, issues that the Planning Commission has, concerns of the township, but we just don't feel that the proposed amendment as presented to you is ready to move forward. Another example might be, I believe another agenda item for you today is a proposed outside storage use on King Ranch Drive, which is going to come under, the zoning ordinance section 32477, subsection 2 and subsection 3, which the attorney has advised is permitted, yet none of the zoning ordinance amendments in front of you change either of those sections. And so what I want to get in front of you today is the M2 property owners want the ability to use their property in a way that benefits the township, is good for their neighbors, but also allows them to use that property in a way that is intended for the heavy industrial use. They're asking for the Planning Commission to table a final recommendation on this issue to allow them an opportunity to work with you guys, work with the township attorney. They will be significantly and negatively impacted if the proposed amendment as is today moves forward, and we think we can do and we can participate to make it better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody else out there?
We have a few other callers, no hands raised. If you would like to make a comment, press *9 on your keypad, and that will raise your hand. And then we will call on you. Okay, 2921. Press *6. Oh,
Yes.
there you are. Okay, state your name and address for the record, and then make your comment.
Okay. All right. I'm James Katlabowski. I live at 1411 East Commerce Street, Milford Township. And my comment, I apologize for not understanding completely what the subject is here. I only saw it the other day in the final column newspaper and decided I should at least come to the meeting. I did, only to find out that you're virtual. And so I'm just concerned because I am a property owner in the township. I'm not sure if I fall in M2. I couldn't find a delineation of the boundaries of that before the meeting. But I do not have a garage. And I use a fabric tent as a small garage to store a vehicle and other outdoor implements in. So I was concerned. I tried to come to the meeting to learn more. I'm now heading home. I'll get online and see what I can dig up. But as someone who does not have a garage, if I'm falling under some prohibition that I'm not aware of yet, I'd like to know that.
My guess is no. It sounds like you have a residence with a tent-like garage, and that would be a residential. This is for M2. This is for for commercial properties, and that wouldn't be something that you needed to concern yourself with.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I'm sorry for intruding, but given the circumstances, this is the situation. So
Understood.
Thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Bye-bye.
Anybody else? Brian?
No hands raised at the moment. Oh, I'm sorry. We do have one hand raised.
Jim?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi,
Jim.
guys. Can everybody
Jim.
hear me okay?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you fine, Jim.
Great. My biggest concern on this is all the properties that I own in Milford Township. If the way the ordinance, the amended, the text amendment ordinance is written right now, it would put every one of my properties in a non-conforming situation. It would also put, I believe, all of my neighbors, my M2 neighbors, in a non-conforming situation too. Currently, we are not in a non-conforming situation, and nor do we want to be. So we want to be sensitive on that, and we certainly want to voice our opinion on that, that we don't want to take a conforming property and put it into a non-conforming situation. So I just wanted to at least state that, and that's all I have. So I appreciate you guys allowing me to speak.
Always, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else out there, Brian?
No, oh, I'm sorry. We do have one more. 0961. Press *6 on your keypad to unmute, and then state your name and address for the record. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jake DePonio. I'm calling regarding a property on Maple Road, abutting the residential district. And I'm just learning about these changes recently. So I have a lot more to learn. We've been out in this area since, 1970s, specifically in this location since 1990. We've enjoyed a good relationship with our industrial neighbors and commercial neighbors and residential neighbors without any problems. We've never been cited for any nuisance violation, be it noise, sight, sound, anything like that. As the attorney had said, we're all about providing a net benefit to the community, and we believe that we have. We've added value to Milford Township, provided jobs, provided tax dollars, and we also want to provide a good place to work and live for all of our neighbors and for ourselves. I only asked for an opportunity to have some time to look at how this would impact our business, where we've got a substantial investment, as we would like to continue with the same use that we've been serving the community with for the last 30 years. So I would ask that this be tabled, a decision on this be tabled, to give us more opportunity, a little bit more time to look into this and see how it would affect our business and our livelihood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. How are we looking out there, Brian?
We do have one more caller, 3917. Press *6 on your keypad to unmute, and then say your name and address for the record.
Yeah, hi, this is Roger Redmond, 2800 Childs Lake Road. I have a building there that we purchased and run my business out of, and just learned of this meeting and potential change of zoning. And I kind of go along with the last two callers. We're abiding by all the rules in the township and bought in to the area and running our businesses. And I would like more time to look into this along with the attorney, as she said. And I don't want to see this move forward without some more discussion. And that's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Do we see any more, Brian?
No other hands raised.
Okay. At this time, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing on this topic.
I motion to close.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Neil second. Do a roll call vote again, Wendy?
Absolutely. That was Latka and DeVries.
DeVries, yeah.
Okay. Latka? Yes.
Yes.
And Mallon
Yes.
and Delo,
Yes.
Mazzara
Yes.
and Rishka. Still not. And DeVries,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Kashkarian,
Yes.
and McGraw.
Yes. Okay, public hearing is closed. At this point in time, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing on zoning ordinance amendment, chapter 32, 584, in ordinance 101. This is for the definition of outdoor store. Whoops, shoot. That's not right.
It's the lot line.
This is, yeah, it's the way it's written here. It's the lot lines and definitions of side yard, backyard, front yard. Anyway, I'd like entertain a motion to open the hearing on that.
So moved. So moved.
Second,
Second.
Miles seconded. Do a roll call vote to open it. Wendy?
To open the meeting, Mazzara,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Kashkarian,
Yes.
Magro,
Yes.
Latka,
Yes.
Malin,
Yes.
Gilo,
Yes.
DeVry,
yes,
and Rishka. No. Okay, public hearing is open and I have no letters.
Okay. Do we have, Brian, do we have anybody out there who in the public who would like to comment on the lot line definition for outdoor vehicle storage and residential zoning?
We have a few callers. Callers, if you'd like to make a comment, press *9 on your keypad to raise your hand, and then we will call on you. Again, it's *9 to raise your hand. No hands raised at the moment.
Okay. We'll give them another 30 seconds and move to close.
Still no hands raised.
Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the lot line definition, outdoor vehicle storage and residential zoning.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Dave seconded it. Let's do a roll call vote.
Yes, indeed. We're starting with Malin,
Yes.
Latka,
Yes.
Mazzara,
Yes.
Rishka. No. DeVry,
yes,
Davis,
Yes.
Kashkarian,
Yes.
Magro,
Yes.
and Gilo.
Yes.
Public hearing closed.
Alrighty. We have no unfinished business, so I'd like to move into new business. And this time, I'd like to actually ask Cherie to walk us through the first agenda item.
Eric will be presenting tonight all the items on the agenda, but we did made a note of all the comments we've heard so far, and
Okay.
We can address that towards the end.
All right.
Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I just have a brief outline of the 5 sections contained within the draft ordinance. This is the first draft ordinance language that we're presenting to you, so I'm looking for feedback on our proposed language. So some of the items in the ordinance are more general that apply throughout the code, and then some are specific to the issue of outdoor storage in M2. So section 1 adds a definition of principal use, and this means the main permitted or special approval use of a premise. So you currently have a definition of principal building, but not a definition of use. So that's something that should be added regardless of the outdoor storage issue. And this is separate from the accessory use definition, which you currently have. Section 2 would amend the M2 statement of purpose. So this language would directly relate to the conditions within the M2 district for outdoor storage, but they're less specific. They're not necessarily standards, but they're just goals or other or more general statements that lay out the intent of that district. So what's encouraged is uses with principal buildings connected to public sanitary sewer. And what's discouraged are uses that may not require a principal building within the SAD. And this is coming off of the last discussion at the last meeting of this, where there was a desire from the Planning Commission to try to tie outdoor storage to the SAD, not necessarily just the issue of requiring principal buildings. So that's what we tried to do with the language. Section 3 then gets into the M2 permitted principal uses. So the first one, more of a cleanup item. In the M2 district, you're allowed to reference the M1 district permitted uses. So if a use like warehouse is permitted in M1 and you're zoned M2, you could cite the M2 uses list as you know, in order to permit your use. That we wanted to clarify that M1 uses are not outdoor storage uses. So we're just making sure that in the future that there isn't a use in that M1 list that's used to permit outdoor storage related to a main use. So that's more of a cleanup item. Second is to expand the use determination authority to include the building official. So the building official could make that use determination if they desired, or you know, send it to the Planning Commission as has been done previously. And this is also a topic we're going to get into more detail with future amendments as far as uses that are not specifically addressed and things like that. So if you don't like the language in that amendment, we will come back to it with another topic. And then lastly, is that those two sections that relate to open and outdoor storage still apply to use determinations. And then one more slide here, continuing in the M2 district. This amends the open storage condition. So there's two sections in the ordinance that apply to open and outdoor storage, which generally mean the same thing. So this just provides a reference to that 609 section, which is the main area of conditions that apply to outdoor storage. So this just tries to make that clear that there's two sections that are required to look at. And then so lastly, section 5 is the main change that's in the ordinance. And these are new conditions to permitting outdoor storage, and they would only apply to the M2 district. So there's two options. If you have a principal building, outdoor storage may be permitted as an accessory use to the principal building and use. And then if you do not have a principal building, there's two conditions for when outdoor storage may be permitted. And we use the term may there because there's other conditions that apply to allowing outdoor storage. So just because you meet these things doesn't mean you have the proper screening or other proper improvements that would allow outdoor storage. So there's still some discretion in approving outdoor storage. So without the building, the lot or parcel cannot be within the township SAD for sewer and water, and it also cannot be adjacent to residential zoning. So if there was one side that abutted residential, that would not be allowed. So both 1 and 2 need to be met without a principal building to have outdoor storage. So that's all I have. You're not under any obligation to you know, send a recommendation to the township board tonight. You could consider this at a following meeting. So it's we're just looking for some initial feedback.
Okay.
If I may, can I share those the tables we were talking about?
Yeah, please do, Sherry.
I do have one confusion, so I'm going to share it and then ask Eric to clarify that.
Okay.
Okay, so I was summarizing this for the public who was here, and then they're trying to figure out what we are trying to propose.
Okay.
So what we are currently proposing is what Eric essentially said. I'm just rephrasing it different words. If it abuts residential and it is in sewer district, outdoor is storage without a building is not permitted. But it is permitted as an accessory to a principal building. And then, so essentially, if either one of these, if we answer no to one of these questions, then it's not permitted. If it's no to both the questions, then it's permitted without a building. I am kind of stuck here halfway through trying to fill the blank here. So if it's abuts residential, but outside of sewer district, how does the Planning Commission would like to regulate outdoor storage as an accessory to principal building? So those two, these two columns is something the Planning Commission can consider to provide better clarity so that we can revise the language. And just listening to the Brighton's attorney's comments earlier today, I think they were raising a concern about what if it is outside the sewer district, but abuts residential, then they're at disadvantage. And we are saying no in that situation. So an alternate the Planning Commission could consider is based on the intent of why we started the amendment. Would you like to permit outside storage without a building if it's outside the sewer district, but abuts residential as a special land use? I hope this clarifies a little bit of, summarizes a little bit of discussion. So I'm gonna stop share, and we're here if you have any questions for us.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Let's start with Mark.
No questions at the moment.
Okay, how about you, Vaughn? Do you have any questions?
No, but you know, on the last question that Sri was mentioning, I would imagine, you know, one of the keys there would be buffering, you know, fencing and that kind of thing to certainly shield the, you know, the appearance from the residential district. And I'm getting ahead of myself here a little bit, but I'm not real clear what constitutes a temporary building.
I don't think it was a temporary, it was a principal building.
No, I know it, but later on in something we're going to be getting into, it talks about temporary or permanent buildings. But
yeah, we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves there.
Yeah, I'm getting a little ahead of myself there. But,
Neil?
No questions.
Miles?
No questions.
David?
So I'm just adding on to Commissioner Kashkarian's thing about buffering. I guess one of my concerns with abutting residential comes down to, I mean, if there's absolutely enough natural screening or space or whatever, I mean, I'm seeing the township move more and more towards constricting what people can do with their land, and I'm actually not a big fan of that personally. And you know, if you have, you know, I look at my neighbor's property who has several hundred acres of farmland, but they abut a residential area, and what they can do on their property, or it starts becoming constricted. And the same would go for like an M2 sort of an area, where if you have a significant amount of land, but you are right next to residential, there's things that you can't do. But if you were to partition a small amount of that land off as a buffer zone between the residential and your land, now all of a sudden you can do it. And the only difference is just an imaginary line drawn on a map. So that's where my concern starts coming in as we start telling people what they can and cannot do with their land. I would like to have at least some reasonable things put in place so so people can find ways to use their land. George, you're on mute if you're talking.
James?
I have no comments at this point here.
Okay, Bill?
I have one comment following up again on Vaughn a little bit and asking Eric, in the amendment that was drafted by your office, can you tell me what section you're referring to when you refer to storage next to a residential?
So this is on page 3 of the draft ordinance, 7B. It's the very end of that B item. And this is proposed language, not existing language.
So you're referring to your page number 3.
Or page number 12.
Eric, is that page number 12?
Yeah, it is.
It's
Okay, I see
Wendy's
that
page
now.
number 12.
And again, the building is present in the same lot as outdoor storage. If no, can you just go over that real quick? What you said while I was shuffling through the pages is 7B, right?
7B. So this 32609 B7, these are areas of application. So these are more broad district-based, where's outdoor storage permitted. So you see in 4, outdoor storage is prohibited in C1, prohibited in C2, prohibited in M1. And this is really the main area of your ordinance where it addresses outdoor storage being permitted in the M2. So within this section is where we're proposing to add conditions on allowing outdoor storage. And these are those 2 with a building and without a building items that were in the PowerPoint. So A, if a building is present on the same lot or parcel, outdoor storage may be permitted, provided it is an accessory use to the principal building and use of the lot or parcel. So it's outdoor storage is permitted as an accessory use where there's a principal building. And then
Yes.
B is the opposite of that. So if no principal building is present on the same lot or parcel, outdoor storage may be permitted, provided it is not within the SAD for sewer and water, and the lot or parcel is not directly adjacent to residential zone property. So both of those would need to be met with the current language. And there would be the option to request a variance, like any standard in the ordinance, if this amendment passes.
Right.
that would
And
be an option.
so I have no other issues besides that one question.
Okay.
George, can I just jump in for 1 second, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, I understand in some of the Commissioner Latka's position on, whether somebody can do with their property. And I understand, from the comments earlier from some of the public, well, what they can do with their property or what limits them. What is the benefit to the township for opening up M2 to just a storage space for property in the township? What benefit does the township get from a parking lot for equipment or other kind of things? I guess I understand where it would help the owners of the property. I don't see any benefit for the township for creating giant parking lots out in the M2 district.
Good point. Understood.
Can I respond to that?
Sure, go ahead.
So
I question when we say what is the benefit to the township. People are and businesses are spending significant amount of money to buy incredibly valuable land in Milford. And they buy the land to use the land for their business in an M2 area. And if there's a benefit to that person to say, I will spend a significant amount of money to be in Milford, then I don't see why they shouldn't have that benefit to use their land. As the land prices continue to increase, and they have been in Milford, buying it to do just a parking lot, there's a lot cheaper places around us where you can build a parking lot. But I don't understand why the township has to get a benefit out of a business owner per se, as long as the business owner is doing it in a respectful way with proper screening and noise containment and things like that. I don't see why we as a township should start regulating what people should do on their property.
I tend to agree with you, Dave, but there's always the issue of what else can you do with M2 besides turn it into a parking lot? There's a lot of other things you can do, but the clear trend lately has been to turn M2 into unrestricted heavy equipment parking, to the point where people are renting out their property to other businesses to fill up their property with other equipment. And if you watch the progression of what's been happening with those that are already there, storing RVs and things like that, and then all of a sudden you start to see storage containers. You start to see flatbed trailers without axles. You start to see a lot of things come in that weren't supposed to be there in the first place. And what we would like to encourage the landowners to do is to get creative and do something else other than heavy equipment storage, because that, to me, is the bottom end of what we would like to see them do with M2. And we want them to run businesses out of their M2 property. And one of the major reasons why we're looking at buildings is a part of that. Now I understand that some folks have property and they just need to expand their business, and we're willing to work with them. This isn't saying that it won't happen, that it can't happen. This is just saying this is what we're willing to do, and if you want to do something else, we'll talk to you about it. It's not a prohibition. It's trying to put a line in the sand as to what we think Milford needs to be based on our residents and our master plan. There's nothing in our master plan said that we ever wanted to become the heavy equipment storage for the Tri-County area. That's not where we want to be. We also don't want to tell people that they can't use their property the way they want to, but at the same time, it's got to be a blend of what the community needs and what the owners need. So it's not a hard. This isn't a cement wall. This is a line in the sand. This is something that we need to discuss. And we're doing this because we're running into a lot of it now. We're seeing more and more of it, and that's why we're going, well, there's a hole in the boat here. This is not what we've ever intended to do. We've always had parking as accessory to an on-site business, and turns out that our ordinances weren't written as we wanted them or we were construing them. So we have to write them to be what we always thought they were. This isn't changing something. We've been enforcing that particular process for the last 25 years. And all of a sudden now we found out that we do have a hole in our boat. So we're not changing anything. We're just getting it right, in my mind.
Serge, one comment. I guess one could argue on that basis, then why are we making this distinction between piece of property that abut residential, piece of property that don't abut residential, if we're discouraging storage in the township, you know, we're making a distinction here. In this case, what it's trying to say, I guess what we're trying to say is, well, we don't really want it up against residential. And I can understand that issue. That is an issue, there's no question. But we're also saying at the same time, storage is okay if it's not up against residential, I guess, if I'm reading this.
We're saying that it's definitely a consideration. And you and I drove around and we looked at Mr. Maher's property, for instance, and we know it backs up to residential, but if you go to the residential, there's not much that you can see of Mr. Maher's property. I mean, in a very specific sense. So, you know, what Dave was saying is that, you know, it's the thing about, are we really saying that it can't ever abut residential property? And Dave was saying, well, you know, if they screen it properly and they do the things, he's right, you know, but that's part of working it through with the applicant.
Well, I agree.
It's not carte blanche. It's not carte blanche. If you've got M2, you can park anything you want on it. That's not where we're at. And we're trying to make sure that our ordinances support the position, because that's been the ongoing position, like I said, for the last 25 years. It's just that, you know, we've taken a look at it, taken a very, very legal look at it and said, it's not quite saying what we thought it said.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think, you know, on one hand, there's the issue, do we want to be outside storage in the township? And the other issue is, well, maybe if it's not disturbing, you know, some of the areas, and it's not in the sewer district, and it's adequately buffered by landscape or elevation or whatever, then maybe it is. Now that's going to be subjective, obviously.
That's one of those things that you work out with the applicant. It's not something, again, you know, if you read this properly, it says that this is what you can do, and if there's something else, talk to us.
Yeah,
it's real simple. Bill, you started to say something, I think.
Well, I think I'd like to go ahead and make a motion.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, wait a while. Is everybody okay now?
Interject something, and I think Sri wants to add to, just to clarify some points that were made. So you're putting M2 outdoor storage regulations in place doesn't necessarily mean that you're prohibiting the outdoor storage. Making them special land use doesn't mean you're prohibiting the outdoor storage. It also doesn't, if we put them in a special land use designation, then it can be more of a kind of case-by-case approach, but your zoning ordinance is meant to regulate uses of property. And you need to clearly define how you will regulate use and be specific in your ordinance. So it isn't like you're going to have regulations in place that you're going to be able to kind of fetter out later. You're going to have to follow a checklist that's in your ordinance. The process that you're going through right now is to figure out what you want that checklist to say, because it's not something that you're going to do after the fact. And Sri, maybe you want to add on to that, because I know that, you know, you had some comments there.
Go ahead, Sri.
I think Jen covered one of the items I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to provide some a background. So Milford Township is the only township in the surrounding area that allows outside storage without a building at this moment. All the other townships have some kind of conditions to permit outside storage in M2. M1 is always the most protected light industrial district. And then two, like Jen said, special land use gives us a little bit of an extra discretionary layer if we want to add any standards with regards to buffering or any other protections for the residential users. And one of the members was asking, why is abutting residential criteria for restricting outside storage. It's mostly because the type of enforcement challenges regulating that use and the visibility impact on the residents with all the storage not being laid out properly. So that's one of the reasons why that became one of the criteria to regulate the use to protect the residential interest as well.
And your building official is here. He can speak to that as well, but I can tell you as your legal counsel that the township does have challenges with outdoor storage or with properties being used without having site plans in place. And so the township needs to address that by tightening its ordinances, because we can only get so far in court and Tim can only get so far issuing notices and citations unless he's got something backing him up that more clearly defines what people can and cannot do.
Agreed. That's why we're doing this. So good points. Thank you, Jennifer.
There's creating the non-conforming uses came up earlier. There's only currently 1 or 2 properties under site plan approval in the past that have storage yards. The others were specific on storage. We approved one on Childs Lake Road that had keyed entrance, and they went through the process for RV and boat storage. We had another only boat storage yard we approved. Another one on Childs Lake Road that's a little more open-ended, but creating a bunch of non-conforming uses, I don't think is a problem for the township. We all of a sudden started to see numerous plans with just storage and no principal buildings, and I've discouraged those since I started at the township. And ordinance is to ensure that is what happens. I still believe that a principal building is required. Jennifer has made it clear to me that it's not what it says, but that's the way I've looked at it for 23 years.
Can I ask Tim a question?
Sure.
Tim, are you referring to the ones outside the district as well? Sewer district?
Yes. There's I don't think there's one proposed in the sewer district, but everything is outside the sewer district. And there is no water district. We should take that out of the ordinance too. Just say sewer district.
Yeah, good point.
Your point is the same. The same requirement for a building would be in or out of the sewer district.
Yeah. But we haven't had a proposal yet. We have one plan that you haven't heard at the planning commission, but in the sewer district for just storage. The rest have been outside the district. And I think Giffords made I don't want to say concession, but thought that was a good add to allow a storage use outside the sewer district if you met those conditions of not abutting residential and other things. So they're taking into account some property rights of the landowners to use their M2 property.
How many sites do we have that are like that outside the sewer district? Parcels?
Well,
roughly.
We have one storage yard on Childs Lake Road across from Fike Drive that is just storage. It was approved for landscape supplies on one half and generators and telephone poles on the other half.
But we have several vacant ones.
Well, we have lots of vacant property in M2 that people have asked for years to put things on, and I've said no.
Well, George, my only issue is if we're saying we don't want to be known for storage, if there's a heck of a lot of vacant properties outside the sewer district, and we're going to open up that for storage, then I'm not sure what that does if our objective is to not be a township known for outside storage.
Many of those properties abut residential. That was the, you have to have a specific piece in M2 that doesn't abut residential and is outside the sewer district. Before, when we were thinking about zoning changes, those properties were proposed to get changed from heavy to light. And we had, lots of opposition to that, so we didn't change that section. Now I don't believe we're still allowing guys to use heavy industrial property, build a building and have outside storage that abut residential. That part hasn't changed. It's just without a building, you can't do it.
Could I throw in a comment? I think we have to be more nuanced here because we keep saying abutting residential. Well, what matters is if you can see it or if you're bothered by it. And not to pick on Mr. Maher, but standing at his property, I didn't see the residence. It's out across a wetland and behind some trees, and it's really not a problem. So if we want to put in a consideration of the abut residential, I think we would want to some way get screening in there. So if you can screen it, either with vegetation or fences, then that's not such an issue.
I agree.
Okay, any more comments?
Just a question, if we allow storage with the building, what's to stop someone who just puts up a small office in the middle of the property with a parking space and they're done? What stops that?
The draft defines that it should be accessory to a principal use inside a building. So it's not just a matter of building, but the building use should be the principal use on the property.
Okay, so the principal use of the property is storage. You come into the office and you fill out a contract or a purchase or some sort of an agreement. Does that qualify?
No, the principal use of the building, like it could be a contractor business who have an office, then he can have outside storage of his business related vehicles because it's accessory to the use of the building.
He's still going to have to make an investment, Neil, in a building, septic, well, paved parking, site plan approval, professionally prepared plans. Besides that, the other uses or the storage use, they don't have to go through much of that investment in the township at all. That's what I'm getting at. So there's a financial penalty for trying to get around not having a building for a principal use on a storage lot. Yeah, it's going to require more of an investment, I guess, in their property. I don't want to call it a penalty. It's just you either have whatever you don't. If you have to pay for it, it's a penalty. I think a lot of guys in M2 need their building to do their business. Okay. Just looking for clarification. We want the storage on the lot to relate to what they do on the lot. They're not going to build a building and put boats behind it. We want
people to build a building and use it as an accessory, the principal use for their business, having trucks, tree trimming trucks for a tree company, landscape trucks for a landscape company. I think that was the vision of M2, and it allowed people to have their things out of doors. But, you know, putting a building on a lot and then using the lot for boat storage, I don't think is the reason the township has M2 property.
We could define
Right.
how that accessory use is define. I mean, we could define the accessory use to make it more clear.
Bill, you were going to say something?
The issue at hand right now is that land is being used for open storage. I fully agree with Tim. That was not the intent of our ordinance, even though currently our attorneys has interpreted differently. So it was always intended to be a building on the property with principal use. And if you had that building on the property with that permitted use and that permitted use required storage, then you could have storage. It's never
Okay.
intended that you would just have storage. In regards to, can I just put a trailer on the site? No, you can't. There's other revisions, other ordinances in the book of ordinances that prohibit you from doing that. The building has to be of a certain, able to withstand a certain age. It has to be constructed of certain materials. We get to approve the materials. So I think the immediate situation that we have at hand right now is the misunderstanding of when a principal building and a principal use. So I think the ordinance does in fact address that. And I think it does that.
As rewritten.
As it's written. So can I go ahead and make a motion now? Would that be all right?
It's okay with me.
Okay. I would like to move recommending to the township board introduction of the zoning amendment, chapter 32, 3-2, 32-476, 32-477, 32-480, 32-609 of the ordinance 101 as prepared for us by our consultant and reviewed by our attorneys.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Jim seconded. Can you do a roll call vote, Win? Hello, Wendy.
That's a discussion.
Yeah, I would like to
Just
ask a question.
George, do we have discussion?
Yeah, let's have discussion. Sorry, Miles.
Thank you.
Go for
Okay,
it.
Bill, as you phrased that, you're introducing that to the board. Are you saying that you're proposing that exact language we have in red be implemented?
I'm suggesting that it gets moved onto the board for introduction at that level. Yes, as it's written. Our consultants wrote this for us. And I, been informed that it's in our best interest to go with what our consultants are telling us and not revise it. I mean, we talked about this. We had a meeting separately on this, and talked about what our immediate concerns are. This is what our consultants are recommending, and not recommending, but put into writing so that we can move it on to the board.
Anyone else have comments, discussion?
We're still going to delete the portion about the water
Yes,
part of the zone.
I'll
That should
add
be
that. I will
deleted.
add that to my motion.
Okay.
And that was in 7B in section 6 or 5, right? Is that what you're referring to, Neil?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, call you off one at a time. It looks like we have to do this. Okay, we've heard from Neil. How about Miles?
No.
No, we're not voting yet, Miles.
Oh,
We're just
sorry.
doing comments. Mark, got any comments?
No further
Discussion?
comment. No further comment on that. Thank you.
Okay, Vaughn?
No further comments.
Miles, I assume you didn't have any further comments.
Nope.
Julie, I saw that you were here. Was I wrong? I guess I was.
I don't see her.
David, any
No
comments?
further comments.
And James?
No comments.
Okay, then Wendy, let's do a roll call vote.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mazzara,
Yes.
Latka,
No.
Mallon,
Yes.
Gilo,
Yes.
DeVry,
Yes.
Davis,
No.
Kashkarian,
Yes.
Magro,
Yes.
and Rishka. Not here yet. And so that is 6 yes, 2 no.
Okay, motion carries 6-2. We'll move it on to the board. Okay, let's move on to the discussion for lot lines, definition of outdoor vehicle, residential zoning. Sheree, you want to take us through this, or is Eric going to do that again?
All the items on the agenda are Eric's tonight.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So this one's changing gears from the previous discussion. These changes would only apply to residential districts. So try to set aside the discussion that we just had.
Okay.
So the issue that came up with this through the township attorney and building official is that people have been storing RVs on the side of their house. And so if a house is a corner lot, really that side of your house becomes a front yard. So that's kind of the background of this. So we have a couple simple changes that we think would help improve this issue. So what determines your yards and your setback is the lot line. So as you define front lot line, side lot line, and rear lot line, that sets the basis for what your yards and your setbacks are. So a front lot line sets your front yard, and then your front setback, same for side, and then same for rear. So one change to the proposed language in section 1 is just to clarify that for front and side. So for front yards and setbacks, those apply to all front lot lines. That's something you currently apply, but we're just making it a little more clear in the definition. And then secondly is to clarify that front yards and setbacks apply to exterior side street lot lines. And we'll have a graphic that shows what that means. But so that would be a corner lot where the side of the house is also on a street. That is considered an exterior side street lot line. So it's a side lot line, but it has to meet front yard standards and front yard setbacks. So the language that was in the RV storage conditions, and this is for RVs stored in residential districts for 48 hours or more in any 2-week period. So somewhat permanent storage, not someone just coming home to clean their RV for a weekend trip or something like that. This is more permanent, long-term storage. So the current reference in your ordinance is to storing RVs behind the front face of the principal building. Front face is not an ideal term to use because it's not really a zoning term that we use. We stick to more the yard setback. So what this ordinance would do is replace that reference to within side or rear yard. So you would be permitted to store your RV in the side or rear yard, and then you would be prohibited from storing the RV in the front yard. And that's front yards for corner lots or double frontage lots. So that could be multiple front yards. So this is just a quick graphic explaining the language, and we'll likely include something similar to this in the clear zoning conversion, but this is just to explain the language. So all of these areas in red would not you would not be allowed to have RV storage. So really what we're talking about are these bottom two. These are corner lots. So the front of the house is facing to the bottom, side of the house is to the right. So then this side yard, this is your exterior side lot line. This area becomes a second front yard for this lot. So you could not have an RV stored on the side of the building here because there's a road on that side. So that's basically the language. And again, this is our first attempt at the draft ordinance language. So looking for discussion.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, can I interrupt for just a minute? Brian, could you let our vice chair in from the waiting room, please?
Yes, she is in the meeting now.
Thank you.
I'm in.
Welcome.
Thanks. Sorry.
Okay, let's have some discussion on this ordinance. I'm sure everybody's had a chance to read it and understands it. I think Eric did a great job. Basically, if you have a corner lot, you've got two front yards. And that kind of clears up the murkiness of, what's a side yard. Basically, you have two front yards and either two side lots, two side yards, or two backyards, depending on how you want to look at it. But if there's any discussion or any questions that you'd like to ask, I think now would be a good time to do that. So why don't we start with Julie? I know I won't start with you. That's not fair. Neil?
Just a question. We're delineating this to RV type vehicles. What about things such as, homeowners' agricultural vehicles, like a tractor or a front end loader, or some of the other things that are in the township? Would that be included in this?
So can you see this text where I changed the
Yep.
So there are additional vehicle types that this section, the entire section applies to.
Well, show me where it says tractors.
Oh, I'm not saying that it does include tractors. I'm just,
Okay.
there are.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
There's tractor trailers. So
No, tractors as in the kind that pull plows.
Or cut lawns,
Or cut lawns.
Yeah, we have some tractors in the township that have like
Gang
a
mower.
flail motor behind it, or a mid motor that cuts like 6 feet across, and they're good sized tractors. I know I have one.
Do you
Yeah.
Would
park in
that
your
be
front
included
yard?
in this?
I don't see any reference to agricultural equipment or implements.
I didn't either.
Yeah, so usually agriculture, Right to Farm Act covers that. So we try to be careful with regulating farm equipment. So this 32,584, I do not see. that
Okay,
it
so
includes farm.
you couldn't park your trailer in the front yard, but you could park your lawn tractor about the same size.
Well, it says other equipment, doesn't it?
So it's all RV related, not for home maintenance.
I think this goes back to like the intent of the ordinance, and like the intent of this ordinance is that you don't park stuff in your front yard. So if you have a residential home, then you shouldn't be parking stuff outside in your front yard. That's the
Exactly.
intent of the ordinance.
Exactly. So, so we have, if you go around the township, you'll see some residences with that situation on right now.
Well,
So I just want to know if it's covered or not covered.
That's not that wasn't a focus of this. We were more focused on RV. So we might need, if there's a
Okay.
concern with farm equipment, we might need some more time to
It's
check.
not really farm equipment. It's more lawn maintenance, yard maintenance.
Is it yard maintenance for personal yards, or if it's
For
part of their
a residence, yes.
I mean, like if he's a contractor who does maintenance for other residents.
No,
Oh.
it's, could be your own home.
So
We
this
have-
amendment was only to address recreational vehicles. There may possibly be, without having the benefit of all of that in front of me, language in there regarding the types of vehicles you're discussing, but this was purely
Okay, so,
purely addressing recreational vehicles.
so we're delineating this strictly on RV related equipment
Yeah.
and nothing to do with residential, landscaping or maintenance kind of equipment that could be parked in the front yard for personal use.
So this language doesn't affect language in regard to those types of vehicles that may be elsewhere in the ordinance. This is
How about-
only
How about a
for-
4x4?
Yeah, well, we'd have to look at a 4x4 like is a recreational vehicle. So such as recreational vehicles, RVs.
So you could
Motorized
park
home.
a 4x4 in the front yard.
Or what do you
Like an
say, 4x4, a
Okay.
pickup truck?
No, like a small
A
four-wheeler. You know, like a small
four-wheeler you
four-wheeler.
can't park in the front yard.
Like an
So we
ATV.
could,
Four-wheeler to me is a recreational vehicle, wouldn't be allowed in the front yard.
Okay, that's
Correct.
what I'm trying to get at. Okay, that's fine.
if that's the intent, we could define the vehicles by the weight, if it's more than 2 tons.
No, we don't want to do that.
No,
We don't want to do that.
it's
Okay,
written
sounds
that
good.
way.
No, just, it's fine as it is. It covers the things that we wanted to cover, and if somebody has a gang mower on a tractor on the front yard, I guess that's personal use, that's fine.
Okay,
This just got a problem with the front face in court. So we're
That's what-
clearing up
that's-
front face.
Bingo.
okay.
Good point, Tim. Miles?
No, this I think reads very well, but you were just saying just RVs, but what was on the screen said specifically airplanes and other things. So it really isn't just RVs.
Yeah, commercial vehicles too, semi-tractors.
Yeah, I don't want you parking your airplane in the front yard either, Miles.
Oh, man, I really wanted to.
Yeah.
So what I meant, Miles, by RV was recreational vehicle as defined in the ordinance, not like what you traditionally know as an RV, meaning like a camping car. RV meaning recreational vehicle that Eric pointed out, that definition is for recreational vehicle. And it includes what you would traditionally know as an RV, but also many other types of vehicles.
Okay.
Okay,
Hey, Eric, can you put up the graph again? The graphic? As I look at it, the lot under the trailer with the red line through it. See how it says exterior side yard? Where is the storage? Yeah, where's the storage allowed? Doesn't it go to the house?
Right, this graphic is used for buildable area for accessory buildings. This green is not indicating where you can store
Oh, okay.
RVs.
All right.
It's that we adapted this from it. We'll have to make a new graphic for this.
All right,
language.
good deal, because it was just different from the other picture on the other side.
The
Thank
line
you.
would really be, it would
In
be
there?
here off
Okay,
the
cool.
building wall.
Good deal. Thank you.
all right, Miles? Any discussion?
No, I think this is good as it is.
Okay, Julie?
I'm happy with it. It looks great.
Okay, David?
Okay, I'm going to speak in defense of a lot of landowners in Milford. There are people that have a significant amount of land and they put their house at the very back of the property. You could have a 1/4 mile long driveway, having your house at the very back of the property. And therefore, you could have a 1/4 mile where you cannot park your recreational vehicle. I think that's a little restrictive. I mean, we live in the country, except for those of us who are in the village, which has a whole different set of rules. But we all live in the country on minimum 1.5 acre lots. So I think I understand that this was already kind of thought about in the ordinance as to where we can store things on our property. But again, I'm trying to speak for, people who live here and the landowners. If you have a recreational vehicle, I guarantee if you own that, or if you own a boat, or if you own a horse trailer, you want to keep it on your paved driveway. If you park it on the grass, it rots away. So you're telling people, if you don't want it to rot away, you're going to have to pour concrete somewhere else. You're going to have to put, additional driveway space or whatever to be able to get to your, to pull your trailer to that location. And then, of course, most people don't have corner lots, but you greatly reduce the amount of area that somebody could keep their stuff on their property when you have a corner lot. You may lose as much as 3/4 of your property for storage if you're on a corner lot. I'm going to also speak, which I could have done maybe in the public comment section, as the owner of the most restricted property in the township, as Tim might actually be able to, attest to. I have a main road that goes in front of my house, which I consider as my front yard. And then I have a private drive that curves around my property. So of my 239,493 square feet of property that I own, I am allowed to store vehicles or recreational vehicles on 5,000 square feet. 48 feet by 109 feet of my property, where my lot lines are 665 feet by 396 feet. When you're putting in ordinances where you start defining side yards as not storable or front yards as not storable, you're really restricting a lot of residents. Like I said, people want to park their trailers on their driveway. My driveway it's kind of a curvy driveway. It's 354 feet long. I cannot store anything on my 354-foot long driveway.
So Commissioner Latka, I just want to mention that you're speaking about your personal property and being opposed to the zoning ordinance. This is conflict
I'm
of
speaking
interest.
as an example of something. There are lots of the first thing I mentioned was somebody who has their house a quarter mile back from the road, where the front quarter mile of their property is not accessible for their storage. I'm using mine as an example.
I understand all that stuff, David. Basically, what you're looking at is somebody that decided to put their house a quarter mile back for privacy. And the compromise of that privacy is that they reduce the amount of storage that they have on their property. That's a balance that's a choice that they make.
Right. They also have opportunity to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and plead their hardship. I know we've had a number of cases and we've approved some of them. Yep. So it's not an impossibility.
And I would like to point out that for each person that's in that hardship, for every case that they have to bring forward, it's $375 that the majority of the township does not have to bear. there's a lot of people who do have side yards and rear yards. But $375 to ask to use your property is pretty significant. Especially, when it comes up every couple of years where you have another use where you need to go and do another zoning board of appeals. That's a pretty high tax on somebody. When you look at most of the properties in R1R, you can't see most of the property from any road. And yet we restrict people from doing a lot of things on their property, whether it's storage of recreational vehicles, or erecting solar panels, or putting accessory buildings or things like that. We're pretty restrictive for being out in the country. And I guess that's my point is, we live in a rural community where people want to use their property, and we're turning this into the city. So that's all my comments.
Point taken, Dave.
Mr. Chair, I just want to mention to the commissioners, and not specifically Commissioner Latka, but every commissioner, if you're ever presented with an issue or an ordinance that you feel personally affects you or your property, and you possibly cannot be impartial in your decision making because of that, you should refrain at the before the discussion begins. So if anyone in this discussion feels that they have property in the township, because we're all residents of the township, and cannot be impartial in their decision making about the ordinance amendment because of how it impacts their personal property, then they should refrain.
Should recuse themselves.
Yes.
Okay. Good point. Thanks, Jennifer. James? Anything, James? Did we lose?
Yep, I got it. The whole point of this change is not to change what's already been there, which means we already have restrictions against parking in front of your house. All we're doing is clarifying that includes the side of, if you're on a corner lot. That's all we're talking about here, is clarifying this. It's not changing what the regulations have already been here.
Good point. Thank you. Mark?
I did have one question that was touched upon by Commissioner Latka. Could you put the graphic up again that showed, just I'm curious, how would you treat a property which has a private road in the back, along the back line of the property?
So
a private road or a driveway?
Private road. Because in that case, I could see having 2 front yards, and I guess I would,
They call yours a pass-through lot, Mark, and that's a rear yard. Our ordinance defines that. It's corner is corner. Yours is front and back. So the street that's behind you is not a front.
Okay, it's clear. Thanks for clarifying that.
Not a problem.
Anything else, Mark?
No, sir.
Vaughn?
No, not at all.
Bill?
Thanks.
Anything? Did we lose Bill? That's Bill there.
He's muted.
Eric, I think you did a good job of this. I really don't have any comments in regards to the amendments, but as I read through it on our marked up page 17, as we try to make our ordinance clearer, and if you go to where it says number 1, lot line means the property line, and under number 1, I have 2 questions. The first one is just before the red text, where it says the front lot line shall be that line separating such lot from either street. I would like to think it would be street right of way, so that we don't have to, it's street right of way. If you say street, is that the middle of the street? Is that the actually curb line, or is that the right of way? I wonder at this time, do we pick that up as a change?
Yeah, I think that would be good to clarify where that line is for the street, not edge of pavement or center line, but. to
Yeah,
specify
it's I think the right of way, the road right of way is where the real line should be.
Or it could be an easement line also, so we would probably do right of way or easement.
And I think we can pick all this up as we go through our audit, because that doesn't limit us from going through this at audit time. And since I did notice in the first sentence under front lot line, why does it say abutting upon one public or private street? It could have, but why doesn't it just say public or private street?
Yeah, why just one? I don't
Why
think it
one?
could have bought two. Yeah, it could be one or the other, or both.
Can you see where that is, Eric?
Yeah, so that's talking about interior lots, so that's a lot with only one frontage, so that's why I think that's why they use the term the one there, because for an interior lot, you would only have the one side, where
Okay.
a corner or double, you would have two or more.
Looks good, thank you.
Right. At this point in time, I would entertain a motion.
I would again move to recommend to the township board moving forward with the introduction of zoning amendments to chapters 32-2, 32-58 of the ordinance number 101, as indicated on the agenda, as prepared for us by Giffords and Webster and reviewed by our attorney.
And there's no changes. There's no. Okay. Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Neil seconded. Wendy, can you do a roll call vote in this?
Discussion.
Wendy, I'm sorry.
I'm going to-
Discussion. Sorry. Let's start out with James. Anything else, James?
Just, I want to make sure that what in Bill's motion that in item 1 that they add the street right of way is added in there. I think that was correct.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's right. Yeah, that needs to be added. Bill?
I'll amend my motion to receive that.
Okay.
That's it.
David?
No comments. And Wendy, when you do the roll call vote, I will be recused from the vote.
Okay, Julie?
Excuse me.
No, we can't do that. Sorry. So if you're going to recuse yourself from voting, you have to do that at the beginning of discussion before
Okay.
any discussion takes place.
Oh, okay.
So, and you
What about-
recuse yourself because you don't believe you can make an impartial decision, and that's why you don't participate in the discussion.
Okay. So
But you can't participate in the discussion and then not.
recuse yourself. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Good point. Julie? Any discussion?
No.
Okay, Miles?
No.
Neil?
No.
Bill? Vaughn?
No.
Mark?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, now we can do a roll call vote. Wendy?
Okay, Mazzara,
Yes.
Rishka,
Yes.
DeVry,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Kashkarian,
Yes.
Magro,
Yes.
Latka,
No.
Malin,
Yes.
Gilo.
Yes.
Motion carried 8-1.
Correct.
Yeah. I forgot we had a ninth when Julie came.
Yeah, we did. We got Julie came in there. Yeah. Okay. I'd like to move on to site plan PS 20-5002, Jack Building, Zam Parkway. Can you, let's see, Sri, or is it Eric gonna take us through this?
I'll take you through a couple of the issues we pointed out in the review and request that you have the applicant present the details of the proposal. But we had three main things we pointed out in our review. First, there's a 10-foot setback requirement for interior lot lines for open storage. So with this proposal, they're actually crossing the lot line from the parcel to the north, which is associated, with this proposal. So the applicants stated that they would do a lot combination. If that occurs, if this is approved and that occurs, then that would take care of that compliance issue. So you could include that as a condition of approval, that a lot combination be submitted.
This is part of the approval.
Yes, if approved. Second, the ordinance language is that an all-weather durable roadway is provided to the rear of the outdoor storage area. This doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be paved. If it's open to the general public, it has to be paved. But the language here is a little subjective, so we're asking for the township engineer and building official to weigh in on if that roadway is adequate. So they're proposing existing gravel as the access from the road to the outdoor storage area. And then within that requirement is also fire department consideration for emergency vehicle access. So we're also looking to them if they're comfortable with what's being proposed here, should there be a need for emergency access through this site or through the adjacent site.
Have you seen the fire department's June 23rd letter that we got?
I have not.
It basically addresses both of those. Well, I'll try to read it really quickly so that everybody has a sense. It was with respect to PS 215001, PS 205002. Since the exact items to be stored outside are not inventoried as to what they are and can forever change in type and quantity, the fire department must take a position that access must be provided. The required access aisles, roads must be no less than 20 feet in width and ample turning radius, and without any dead-end access aisles / roads over 150 feet in length. The fire department has adopted and refers to IFC 2015, section 503 in this matter. So that's his latest one. So what you were saying with respect to access roads and emergency access has been borne out by what the chief just recently had written to us. So that applies to both of the topics that we have on the plan tonight.
Mr. Chair, is the planning consultant going through his thorough analysis before the applicant, or is he?
Yeah, he's going to go through it. He should be going through his before the applicant gets a chance to discuss, right?
The applicant should make their presentation first. And then the planning consultant should address the review on the township's behalf.
I thought we were going to look at this for open issues and then go into what his plans were to close the open issues. That's the way we normally thought we were doing it. But if we've started out with Eric, so I think we need to continue. We'll do it the other way around when we get down to Mr. Maher, if that's all right. Have we got any open issues on this, Eric? I know you've.
There was one more item, which may have been why this was delayed from last spring when the application was originally submitted. Was there's wetlands on the site. The applicant stated delineation was performed in April of this year, and that area indicated as wetlands is outlined here. So within this boundary are indicated as wetlands. You're not, the ordinance does not permit outdoor storage in wetland areas. So that would be met, but again, just if there's any concerns from the engineer or building official as far as if the delineation is accurate or if there's any concerns with existing storage or anything like that, given that a substantial portion of the site is wetland. So those are the three issues that we pointed out.
Okay. Is the applicant online?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Oh, there you are. Glenn, how are you doing, Glenn?
Good. How are you, George?
Good. Do you want to take us through what your plans are?
For sure. So we are here to request site plan approval for a lot that we acquired in 2017 which is adjacent to an existing site where we operate an asphalt company where we've got repair building. We've got a building where we do repairs inside on our vehicles. We acquired this lot in order to expand our growing business and have a place to park vehicles. Those are only vehicles that are operable. They're not broken down vehicles that are not being used. We're really here to formalize the historical use since 2017. Admittedly, we weren't aware that we needed to come for site plan approval because as we had read the ordinance, it met. So it was an honest mistake, which Mr. Brandt raised to us. And so we're here to request that approval. Relative to the issues that Eric raised, they are two parcels currently. We're certainly willing to combine the two in order to address the 10-foot setback issue. So a conditional approval is not a problem for us. Relative to the wetlands, we did, at the request of the city or the village, we did a wetland survey to ensure that the area that we're proposing for parking is not in the wetlands and is not. We've got a nice buffer between where the official wetlands are and where the parking is, so that we're not interfering with those. And then as far as the asphalt drive through the property, we've shown on the plans a 40-foot drive of asphalt, sort of an asphalt approach on the front, which is what Tim and I, what Mr. Brandt and I had talked about early on as we put these plans together. I wasn't aware that the fire department, if the fire department had an issue with the road not, or with the asphalt not continuing all the way to the back, the fire department letter that was in the package was different than the one that you read, George. So I haven't read that myself, so I apologize for that. But otherwise, I think we meet the other ordinances relative to screening on the front and setbacks and those issues. So we humbly request your approval.
With respect to site plan approval, we don't have a site plan, so that wouldn't be possible. There's a lot more to a site plan than, the drawings that we've got are from like 2017 and things like that. They don't address any of the layout, any of the, the setbacks and what your aisles are going to look like. And that would be.
We have drawings that we just did. I don't know if you don't have the right package.
I might not. No, this is 2017. And so, I'm just looking at the dates.
That's the survey. There's two plans. You've got the survey, which is 2017, and then you've got a plan, the second plan, which shows the parking area, shows the asphalt drive in the front, shows the wetlands, shows the buffer of white spruce on the front. And so Eric's got a full review of all the different issues based off our plans. So I assume that those were all acceptable. They weren't.
They were dated November 13th, 2019 is what I'm seeing. So that's this one. And the other was 2017. Okay, so, all right.
Mr. Chair, can I chime in a minute?
Go ahead, Bill.
I was trying to sort this out myself because I do see, and I think overall, the proposal is a good proposal, but I go back to just the requirements of a site plan approval. The sheet SP-2 is the sheet that was from 13/2019 and the only sheet that bores a seal. So Eric, when you reviewed the plan, did you review this based on that sheet or based on the other sheets? One that's dated 2017 and a smaller one that was attached to it.
Mr. Mazzara, can I just chime in there? The plan that's dated 2019 shows revision dates, through 2020 when we started this process. So it has been updated to reflect, interactions that we had with not only Giffords Webster and their earlier reviews, as well as discussions with Mr. Brandt early on. So
And that is the only drawing that's sealed.
Yeah, that's the only one.
So the other drawings and the attachments that I have are not sealed. So I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right drawing when I go through this with you, so that I don't miss anything and I'm clear about what I'm going to say. So it is based on your drawing of November 13, 2019 sheet date, revised most recently 4/16/20.
Yeah, correct. Yes, that's the correct plan.
Okay. Because we do require that all of the sheets on the submittal be sealed. And they're not.
If they're not, then I apologize for that oversight. I can certainly get sealed drawings submitted.
Thank you. I'll wait my turn.
All right. Let's see, where were we? Are you happy, Glenn? I think we need to start getting questions from some of the commissioners so we can clear things up. But I want to make sure that you've had a chance to give us everything, all the information you feel as though we have to have.
I have, yes.
Okay, thank you. Vaughn, have you had a chance to go through this pretty thoroughly? This set of documents that we have? Vaughn, you need to unmute. Vaughn, unmute.
Sorry.
There you go.
When I went by there, I assumed it was going to be joined. And the property lines, for no other reason, the building is on the other side, right, of the property line, and that building is going to count to the whole thing. And then, of course, the property line itself. There was an old semi-trailer park there being used for storage, and I'm not sure if that's permitted or not, Tim. I don't think so anyway, but that's an aside. No, and the property to the other side going south is on the other side of the wetlands, I think, basically. And so I didn't have any real issue with it.
Okay.
And the vehicles that were parked there now, for the most part, there's a couple that are off to the side, but for the most part, you could tell were being used on a daily basis.
Yep. Yeah, I remember seeing there was what looked to be a container for storage. It says keep door closed. That was in there, and I think that was some outdoor storage that needed to be checked over. Neil.
I just want to make sure we've covered all of the issues raised by Hubble, Roth, and Clark.
Yes.
They're covered?
I don't believe so. I think there were very few actually any issues because I went through it and there wasn't that much in here, but I think from an information standpoint, I think we've got the information we need. And, I guess I'm used to a lot more detailed site plans in terms of, I see what he's got, but I don't know where the roads would go in for emergency access. I don't know how he's going to lay out the parking on the non-wetlands part.
So we have an incomplete site plan.
It doesn't have the sufficient information that I would feel comfortable making any kind of a decision on this. But I think what we can help the applicant with is directional, sense of what he wants to do.
So George, if I can just clarify, so the parking on the site is really just a central drive that goes down the center with with the work vehicles that would park on either the left or the right side. It's not,
Yeah.
not anything more, complex than that.
Yeah, again, but somewhere along that line, we have to show the fire department what their emergency access is going to look like. What the turnarounds are going to be. I mean, again, he said you need a 20-foot. Now that doesn't have to be asphalt. That has to be all weather road, but it doesn't have to be asphalt so that he can get back in here and do anything he needs to do. So I think there's more work to do on this. I mean, I understand what you're trying to do, and I don't have a problem with what you're trying to do. We just need a more complete understanding of how it's going to be laid out.
So Glenn, do you have a copy of this Hubble, Roth, and Clark document?
I have a copy of the Hubble, Roth, and Clark document. I was not given a copy of the fire department letter that George read, though.
Okay.
That's the latest one. Yeah.
But you're aware of the items on page 2 of their March 25th, 2020 letter, because that's what's in our pack. And there's like 5 items here that
Well,
they're asking for.
There's a June 6th letter from Hubble, Roth, and Clark. So I think you
All right. Well, I'm looking
somehow
at
you
the
don't
ones
have the
in my
right
pack.
updated information.
It's the Milford Township, page 36 through 42. Neil,
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and
it's site plan review number 3. And
the only pages in here from HRC are dated March 25th.
oh, I'm sorry. not
George,
each.
we have,
25th.
George, we have we have a Giffords and Webster, a site plan review 4, you know
Yeah.
that, right?
No,
Okay,
just 3.
now we got a 4.
You got a 4? I don't have. Oh, sorry, we do have a 4. There it is.
Yeah, Wendy sent that out in the last
Yeah,
few days.
we went through a couple different iterations with Giffords Webster to make sure that we were addressing all their issues.
Yep.
And their most recent, their last review, June 6th,
Yep.
really had just a few items which we've talked about.
Well, okay, so then let me go through
Okay.
this with Giffords Webster. Have you received information you need to cover HRC questions on paving and grading? There's 4 items, and 1 on soil erosion control.
So typically, we wouldn't be reviewing the plans to make sure HRC's comments were addressed. That would either be at the building permit level or a re-review by HRC, which
right.
could occur prior to your approval or after your approval,
Well, I
depending.
don't
on
know
what you're
why we
typically
asked them to
doing.
do it if we don't consider it.
Yeah.
You can
Soil
certainly
erosion.
consider, it, but we
Can I
don't.
interrupt for a minute?
Go ahead, Bill.
I fully agree that, I'm sort of set by the fact that the packet does not seem to be complete. I just heard that there's a site plan review number 4, but it wasn't in my packet. And if I received it in an email, that's not the way to receive it. But these are not the applicant's problems. Okay. I think if I look at it and look at overall at it, this is exactly what the board asked me not to do, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because I don't think it's that complicated. So if I don't mean to cut you off, Neil, if you have more things.
No,
but
that's it.
I have a couple of things. Does the applicant agree to combine the property?
Yes.
Okay. The question I have that I'm going to ask you to do is try to get these drawings straightened around before they go to the board. Because one of our issues on your site plan application is what's called the physical features. And the physical features, E parentheses 1, 2, and 3, asks for contour lines. It asks for information that you've checked yes, but it's not on the drawing that is dated 2019. That being said, the reason that we want to see the contours is that we know what's going on the site. It's not something on this site that I think is that difficult, but you do have significant wetlands, and there is a way to bring water into the wetland. That's defined by Hubble, Roth, and Clark's letter. So that's one of the issues that I see. I think you have to show the how water is shed. If you read the physical features, that has to be on the drawing. It has to be documented. Simply because if it's not done, we have nothing to go back on. We have nothing that we can come back and say, you said you're gonna do it and you didn't do it. So, and you said in the application that you did do it, but it's not on the drawings. Do you have your packet right there with you, Bud?
I do. And I apologize, we did not show contour lines. We did show the way that the site sheds to the south, to the wetland area. And if that wasn't sufficient, then certainly we could correct that.
I see that arrows on your drawings, but I don't see any contour lines that substantiate the arrows.
You are correct.
So
You are
I
correct.
don't think it's that difficult, to do it because it basically looks flat to me.
Okay, not a problem.
So the other thing is the front yard landscaping. On the front yard landscaping, Eric, if you look at the drawing, they do provide for front yard landscaping, which is pretty much a screen by the fence defining the storage. Okay, but it's not along the roadway where you're supposed to have the front yard landscaping. And even though they're combining it, you would still have to complete the landscaping across the frontage of the lot. I don't see that. And I see that, I know I was out there, there's 2 big trees out there, a lot of vegetation in that area. Unfortunately, I think a lot of it's Phragmites and overflowing wetland plant material. There are a couple of trees in there, but Tim has a hard time enforcing the death of Phragmites. So I think we need to get an up-to-date front yard landscape plan. What we're asking for now is that the landscape, if it's all right with the applicant, it has to be maintained alive. And that's up to you. Now, we've been suggesting irrigation because, it's easier to irrigate and cheaper to irrigate than it is to replace plant material. So we're going to combine the property. We're going to enhance the contour lines. We're going to improve the front yards landscaping. And I don't see any easements on the property. So I'm assuming there are no easements of any type that's encumbering your property. Is that right, Glenn?
Correct.
And your electrical power is going to be coming in from the adjacent site, which has electrical power.
If we need power, that's where it would come from.
So if you landscaped it, you're going to need a well. I mean, if you irrigated it.
Bill, can you clarify the landscaping that we showed, the trees to be planted beyond? I understand that your comment about maybe they should be closer to the road, but can you clarify exactly what you mean by, are you looking for more robust landscaping?
Yes, I can't design it for you.
I
can
understand
only
that.
Say, if you could refer you to the ordinance, you'll see that there's a certain amount of plant material per foot that's required on the frontage, and it's not. You have some good healthy trees there that you could utilize, but they have to be sort of called out so that in your site maintenance agreement, we can go back to it if they die and you have to replace them.
Okay.
Like I think was mentioned earlier, the emergency circulation, I noticed that on the drawings when I got it. I called over to Tom Moore, who's our fire chief, and Chad is one of his firefighters that does his reviews for him. They agreed that that's something they should have included. That's what generated the letter. It would probably take, 2 minutes and a pencil and paper to go there. I can't tell you what he needs to make sure he's not going to pull his fire vehicle into a situation where we can burn up a fire truck. So he's got to have a way of going in and coming out. I don't know what that is. So if you meet with them and get that into a drawing, I think it would be good. The site maintenance agreement that I have, and we've discussed this in the past, it is not signed. It doesn't mention any reuse of material, so you really do have to sort of clear.
The maintenance agreement was the one that I was given by the village, and I was told specifically not to sign it until the approval was granted.
Bill?
The property now?
Excuse me?
Glenn, does someone own? There's no
Yes,
street,
yeah,
there's no
yeah.
street sign.
The applicant owns this, owns the land now, yes.
So I'm pretty familiar with the township, and I really remember when Zam went in, and I went back out there, and now it's getting a little hard to identify. It needs a street sign. I think the fire chief is gonna write you a letter on that also. So if we
A
could,
street sign for Zam Parkway?
yeah. If it's there, I can't find it.
It's not there.
And that would be our obligation to put in a street sign? Is that?
Oh, I don't know if it's yours, but
Oh.
there's gotta be a street sign in
Okay.
that development.
I
So
just wanted
whoever-
to understand the comment. I
Yeah,
appreciate
I
that.
don't know who manages the development now, who takes care of the road? How is that all handled?
Frankly, I wasn't aware that it wasn't a public road.
Oh, it's not. Oakland County doesn't, has shifts that responsibility to everybody. So that is a private road. And that's a little thing. It's not even part of the site plan. I just noticed it when I was out there. So we're gonna take care, you're gonna indicate, you're gonna combine the properties together, which really does help out a lot. You're gonna increase the front yard landscaping so that it complies to our ordinances. You know, there are no easements on there. You're gonna meet with the fire chief and go over and get an emergency layout. The all-weather surface that you have is fine in my mind, because you're moving big vehicles around, and asphalt is not the thing you want to turn on a dime with that type of equipment. So I don't have any problems with that there. The other question I have just in general was, I don't see where the application is, what date the application, this was hard for me to put together. I've got drawings that go back a year. They've got letters that go back to the beginning, and then they don't have a date. When was the application actually submitted?
We submitted the application last year, and through the pandemic, it sort of fell by the wayside. And so we re-engaged with the village, we re-engaged earlier this year to, complete the process.
Okay, so that application date should be filled in there and for our record. I got the drawing straightened around. The only other thing that's on here is I notice that probably I can address, I don't see where the escrow amount is indicated. So has an escrow been paid, Wendy? Do we know?
That's a great question, Bill.
Because
I
it
would
states
have to
right
look
on there,
that
we
up.
shouldn't be seeing it if we don't have the escrow. And if we're gonna have these things, sort of like Neil said, either we have them or we don't have them, but if we have them, we should follow through with them. So Glenn, if you could put those things together and have it ready when it goes to the board, they'll probably say something to me, but I think it'll be all right.
And what is the date of the board, Bill?
I can include that. I don't want to cut everybody off, so that's my only comments. And if I get a chance to make a motion, it'll do that. But the board meets the third Wednesday of every month. But getting on the agenda is something I'm not sure about. It depends on how much is on the agenda. So we'll have to answer that later. But if you touch base with the township offices, they can give you a better direction than me.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's all I got, George.
Okay, I think we cut Neil off.
No, I'm,
I asked him.
yeah, you covered me. Yeah, I'm covered.
Good man. Miles?
Go back and lay down.
No comments.
No comment. Julie?
The only question I had was, it looked like there's some parking happening on the parcel that's to the
North. West.
I don't know. But on the back of it looks like there's some parking happening that's not on the property. It's on a different property line that goes more towards the train tracks. So I'm wondering if that's yours, and if it is, are you gonna move all that to the new subject site?
I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but certainly if
When you look at the aerial on the review letter,
right.
there's an aerial here that was provided and it has a subject site and it has the offices of where you are. And
Right.
behind those offices, there's a bunch of parking back there that's not on. It is on the other side of the property line. So I'm just
Oh, I see what-
wondering if that won't, if you, once
Yeah.
you get that situated, you'll
Yes.
no longer be parking back there, but you'll be parking in a
Yes.
spot that you're supposed to be parking in. If you,
Cor-
that's the picture I'm.
Yeah, that's
referring
also a fairly old photo. So because the parking area that is there already and you can't see it in this, it's not shown in this pictures, but certainly I will make sure that if there are any vehicles that are not on the property, that they are only on the property.
And that was the only thing that that wasn't mentioned that I was curious about. Other than that, Bill covered everything.
All right, thanks, Julie. David?
Looking for the mute button. No further comments.
Okay, James?
No further comment.
Mark, did we cover you?
Didn't, but I have no further comment as well. Looks like it's been pretty well covered.
Okay, Vaughn, you're the last guy. I think we already asked you.
Oh, no, I think everything covered that I was interested in. Thanks.
Okay. Any last comments from Glenn?
No, I'm good, George. Thank you.
Good. Okay, Bill, you said you had a motion that you had crafted.
No, I'll just go with it.
All right.
So I'd like to make a motion to recommend to the board the approval of site plan PS 205002, Jack's Building, Zamway Parkway, L1625 401026. Contingent on the applicant completing all of the issues we addressed in this review today.
And Wendy has a list of those.
Wendy,
Yes,
you can
Mr. Chair.
incorporate those into the minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second,
Julie seconded. Wendy, you want to do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mazzara,
Yes.
Rishka,
Yes.
DeVry,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Kashkarian,
yes,
Magro,
Yes.
Latka,
Yes.
Malin,
Yes.
and Gilo.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. And Bill, thank you for your help with this.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in there. Can we take a 2-minute break? Because it's been a long time.
No.
And then we'll get on to King Ranch. And we'll indulge, if Mr. Meyer will indulge us. 2 minutes, mark it off, Brian.
Will do.
Okay.
That's our 2 minutes, Mr. Chair.
Are 2 minutes up?
Yes, 2 minutes are up.
Okay. All right. I'd like to start discussing site plan PS 21-5001, Weiss Construction, King Ranch Drive. Jim, are you going to take us through where we are today on this?
Brian with Powell and Associates will do the introduction, and I'd be happy to chime in wherever is appropriate.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
Brian.
Brian's on board. Thank you.
Okay, take it away, Brian.
Thank you very much. Could I document share?
Sure. Brian, can we?
Yes, you should be able to share.
Okay.
At the bottom of your Zoom window is the green. There you go.
Yep.
Alrighty.
There you go. All right.
Okay, so I think we're all pretty familiar with this site by now. We're proposing to do outdoor storage bounded within a fenced-in area. We have wood privacy fence in the front, chain link along the sides, and then wood privacy in the back facing the residential property. It's 6 foot tall. We have a turnaround area here in the front to denote the area where the 150-foot setback. We've pretty much addressed all of the, or at least there's been no correspondence with my revisions to HRC grading, because grading and drainage will be handled in this way. Half the site drains into an existing detention basin here that was designed to accommodate, well, it had this basin because it was natural, had an enormous amount of storage in it. So half of the site will drain into this existing basin that drains back to the wetlands this way. The other half of the site will drain down to this retention basin down here that we will do. That's just a couple of foot depression to hold the water back before it ever went into the wetlands. HRC has been good with that. I haven't seen anything since we provided our revisions. Landscape plan, and very quickly, if I may, and Eric or Sri can correct me on any of this that I get wrong or any issues that they would like to bring up. But within their second review letter that we got after the planning commission packet was submitted, which is no problem. I'm just mentioning that. They mentioned that the planning commission should consider the bold things. Starting on page 3 of 7, there's a couple bold items down on the bottom. where we need to add a landscape note about post-construction surface materials, that's no problem. Irrigation system will be operating similarly to the previous applicant, where we have the maintenance agreement and plant materials will have to be replaced if they die due to no irrigation. Most landscape companies give you a 1-year warranty on those materials, and after a year, once they're set, they should probably be good anyways. Has always been my experience. Jim can handle number 8 on page 4 of 7 regarding any removal of trees in the past. We'll just put a pin in that just for a second. We'll go to the next page 5. There's a bold note about the site plan note about maximum height. We will add that note to the site plan. And then page 6, Planning Commission should approve the 6-foot fence in lieu of the 8-foot fence. And that's kind of it for those items. I'll stop my share and I'll let Jim give a short history on the property regarding tree removal.
Great. Can you guys hear me okay?
Can you hear you fine?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. You should have a letter in your packet. I believe it was your engineering planner had asked for the history on the project, or I'm sorry, on the property. I wrote a letter of essentially when we purchased it, when we cleared the property, and then I believe it was cleared. I don't have that letter in front of me. I believe it was the first clearing. There was 2 separate ones. I believe there was one in 2014 and another one in 2017, prior to any tree ordinance or anything of that nature. So you should have that in your packet. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Yeah, it was 2018, I think is what you said. It was 2014 and 2018. Said his permit was obtained from Oakland County for soil erosion.
Yep, we applied for a permit unrelated to tree removal, a permit for soil erosion in 2018. That is correct.
Oh yeah, I see the May 2017.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. All right, so let's go around to the Planning Commission to see if we have any questions for you guys. James.
I am good with the current plan.
Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry, 1 second. Did Eric get a chance to talk? Because we went to the applicant first this time, and then Eric was going to give his.
Bingo. Sorry about that. Yeah, that was my fault. Got out of sequence here. Eric, you want to run us through, what is it? Letter the number 3?
This is our
Number 4.
So all of these items are things the applicant touched on, so I'll just provide some additional info.
Okay.
As far as the front yard landscaping, we're asking for final post-construction surface materials to be indicated on the plan, whether that be lawn, mulch, or other approved materials. There's a plan note that addresses this, but we would like that to be specified on the drawing. And then also is the irrigation issue that has been discussed for this proposal and then the previous proposal, in order to maintain that front yard landscape screening in a healthy condition. On the trees, your ordinance requires a tree survey and inventory where there's landmark or protected trees proposed to be removed. That ordinance, I believe, was adopted in June 2018, and it appears that the bulk of the clearing occurred in stages dating back to 2011, which was prior to that ordinance being adopted. So it's difficult for us to determine if any trees were removed after that tree ordinance was put in place. The one date that we noticed was that October 2018 Oakland County permit. If there was any information related to that as far as when trees were cleared related to that permit, because that's not a tree removal permit, but it could have, brought some tree removal with it. So we're not accusing the applicant of removing trees against the ordinance or anything like that. It's just, we noticed using some aerial photography, we have access to that. There's been several stages of clearing on the site. So this is one example of that. July 18, the site has more green cover on it and versus March 2019. I'm not sure what that activity is where you have these mounds through the site, but green space went away. Difficult to tell if any trees were actually removed. And then some additional comments on the applicant's Weiss construction letter did address some of the nuisance impacts. They stated that none of these items would occur, which are addressed in the section 480. Applicant also mentioned clarifying that mulch and topsoil will be stored under the permitted maximum height limits allowed by the ordinance. Again, we have the all durable roadway question, which we're asking for input from HRC and the fire department on if that is adequate. And then the applicant mentioned that the 6-foot wood screening does require your approval because it is less than 8 feet. So that's for your consideration. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Let's move on to Mark for questions.
I guess just one question. Why 6 foot, not 8 foot? I'm just curious about that one.
I think that was a proposal versus requirement.
Just a preference issue, a little cheaper, easier to maintain. The difference between 6 foot and 8 foot as far as protection is not very much, maybe a little more screening, but the height minimums bring anything that you don't want to see, like a backhoe sitting there, bring it up above the 8 foot anyways, but 6 foot, just a more common fence height.
Yeah, I didn't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Vaughn?
Well, I guess that was my question too. I mean, I suppose that at any time somebody can say 6 versus 8. And, I don't know if there's a rational reason for us to make it on this, support that on this, why not others, I guess is my question.
Okay. Neil?
I was just wondering, have we covered the knockbox requirement of the Milford Fire Department?
It's part of, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Specifically, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It was in his letter and we will comply with that. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, Miles?
Back to the chief of the fire chief letter. He didn't seem to make a big deal about the turnaround. Is he able to turn his equipment there?
There's no way of telling, and that's going to be one of my questions, Miles, is that again, we have no idea how this is going to be laid out. I understand where the equipment's going to be relative to the wetlands, but there's a piece of information missing for me that addresses the fire department. So your point's well taken. I don't know where that is. I know there's a turnaround in the front, but it's a long way to the back. And if something happens in the back, how do they get back there? What's the aisle look like? And need a 20 foot road to go back, or weather road going back there. So they've got to be able to reach it. So
get out.
They have to be able to get in, get out.
Yeah.
It can't be more than 100, 150 feet long if it's one way, or if it's a dead end.
Some way to show a fire truck where the road is, or where the trucks aren't.
Yeah.
Where to stay in inclement weather, and that wouldn't be tough to do, but I didn't see it on the drawing. And kind of laughingly, I also saw the 8 foot versus 6 foot fence, but in this case, the only residential nearby is way across the wetlands and past some trees, so it's not much of an issue.
Good. Okay. Thanks, Miles. Julie?
I think I'm okay for right now.
Okay. David?
Yeah, I'm okay for right now. Yeah, my only concern was the 6 foot versus the 8 foot as far as screening, but as Miles said, it's a ways away. But at the same point, I would want the applicant to be able to ensure that the screening is okay with that.
Okay. Bill? I think you're muted, Bill.
Okay.
There you go.
So first of all, there's a letter in the packet from Dan Lease. And I really appreciate that letter because I think it really does sort of summarize a little bit what the Planning Commission's concern is from an overall township. So I appreciate the letter. I think it was very well done. Thank you. The access circulation notes and aisles by the fire department, again, I'm not a firefighter. I've never even driven a fire truck. So I'm probably not in a position to make recommendations on how to put lanes and aisles in. But I think the fire department, if you meet with them, you know, that's something that they would consult with you on, and it has to be on the drawings. I don't have.
I'm sorry. I thought you were.
Go ahead.
I am just not aware of this request, or I have an approval letter from the Milford Fire Department 3/10/21.
Can you send him the fire chief's letter from June 23rd?
June 23rd, yeah.
Oh,
okay. So can we send that to him?
Hold
because
on.
he's citing the
if it's in the packet
IFC
here,
2015 section 503, and that came. I'm sorry. Is everybody still there?
Yep, we're still here.
Times I drop out. And that just came to us on the 23rd after my phone call with him asking why it wasn't on the drawings. So that would have to be on the drawings. In terms of the 8-foot fence, let me understand where the fence is at, because there's a couple of purposes for the 8-foot fence. One of the purposes is from the 8-foot fence is to provide proper screening, not just to the residential area, but I think it also asks for screening from the front road. So the 8-foot fence, in a way, is exactly where we're at with a lot of other developments. I'm not really concerned about the cost of the 8-foot fence. My concern is that it provides proper screening. And this is an ordinance that's been in place for a long time. So I think the 8-foot fence to me is important because we ask for screening along the roadway and along residential type properties. In fact, so I don't think it's that much more to put a fence of 8 foot in, and they are quite standard.
Yeah, to add to that, Bill, if you would like an 8-foot fence and that's the ordinance, we'd be happy to put it in. This isn't a cost issue. I'm actually opposed to even putting a fence in the back. None of the others along King Ranch Drive have it, but we have it on the site plan. So that might be something you guys might want to just exclude. But the reason why we went from an 8-foot to a 6-foot is to be consistent with the other properties to the left and to the right of us, and not to create some type of consistency. Two, we've added quite a bit of landscaping to the front. So sometimes when you go from that 6 to 8 foot, which 8 foot is a very odd size, it just creates a it creates a barracks feel. That's why I think Brian did a nice job by adding some additional landscape and making it look great. If you look at my property at the very end, actually at the very front of King Ranch Drive, where I just has been putting a lot of work into it, the landscape will look just as nice.
That landscaping does look really good. In fact,
Yeah,
that site looks really good.
especially from where it came from the last guy. But yeah, so anyways, that's up to you. If that's a sticking point to 8 foot, we'll do it. But
Okay.
I would make a recommendation that we keep it at 6, and it's not a cost issue. It's more of, I believe, appearance issue. And I think the landscape, especially as it matures. Keep in mind, King Ranch Drive is a private road, and it only services 5 5 lots, 5 owners. But here nor there, I just wanted to at least add that 2 cents. So thank you for that.
And Jim, we're just looking at so many problems with storage right now
Understood.
and so many promises that are given to us. And I'm glad that, Dan Weiss is willing to step forward and make sure that he complies. So I think that's good, but just drive around. You can see how it's been abused so badly. The other question I have is on your irrigation, on your landscape plan, it calls for irrigation. Are you providing irrigation
We
as
will do,
indicated by your landscape architect?
we won't have in-ground irrigation, but we'll have irrigation on the plantings until they're of mature.
And where are you going to get the water from?
The same way we've done the other developments. They'll be watered 2 to 3 times a week, depending on the weather conditions, based on the new plantings.
From a truck or from the neighbor? Where's the water?
They'd be from a water tank.
Okay. I don't see any easements at all that encumber the site except for, the one that runs right through the middle of it.
Correct.
Is that an easement?
It is. It's for the consumers. There's two main gas runs that go through the properties, actually through all the properties along King Ranch Drive.
So I sort of assume that based on the abbreviations that it's, I don't see where it's called out. That's not a big issue. Where we have issues is there's easements and then we ask for plant material to go into the easement. And it's not long before whoever owns the easement comes and removes it.
Yeah, there is the easement is, we actually are allowed to plant in it, but in this development, there is no plantings in there. It is all the storage because it runs up right in the center of the property. And we'd be happy to provide that administratively if that helps. Because it is identified on a survey somewhere. I'm not sure if it's in your packet.
You've seen HRC's comments from April 2nd. So there's comments from April 2nd by HRC that the proposed grades will need to be shown on the plans.
Yeah, that was supplied to him.
That was supplied to HRC?
Yeah, that was, yeah. There was at the previous, May 31st, when we made our submittal, there was the plan was revised pursuant to HRC's letter, and we had a response letter that went along with that. If you look at the plan on page S2, we have all the drainage calculations, the basin, and all the proposed grades are there.
And then his other issue is to verify the stormwater runoff.
That was part of that. This plan addresses all of HRC's comments from their earlier letter. We had previously not proposed a retention basin in the back of the property because we had a large vegetated strip between it's such a small drainage area, and then we have an enormous wetland there. But Mike required a basin prior to the wetland, so we added that in.
And then as with the other applicant, Wendy, has the escrow been paid on this site?
Yes, it has. There's escrow actually on both of the site plans you've seen tonight.
Okay. So that's all my comments.
Okay. I think we've gone through everything. I guess we can entertain a motion on this now. Why don't you wind it up for us, Bill?
I lost it.
You do such a great job.
Yeah. Hold on.
No problem.
I've misplaced the agenda, which has all the information on it.
Oh, no. Yeah, we've got quite a pile of papers here.
So I found it. No, it's all on the floor.
Ah, okay.
I didn't.
Got the site plan numbers, Bill, and the lot.
Yeah, just give me that.
Okay, site plan PS 21-5001. And lot L 16-25-226-016.
And the title of it on the agenda is
Weiss Engineering, King Ranch Drive.
Weiss Construction.
Weiss Construction, excuse me. Thank you.
So I would make a motion to recommend to the township board approval of the site plan for Weiss Construction.
We won't make you say all the numbers back.
As indicated earlier, with the following conditions. That the applicant provides the lockbox as required by Milford Fire Department. The applicant complies to the recommendations indicated on the Giffers and Webster's review that were discussed today. That he meet with the fire chief and devise a circulation plan for emergency vehicles, and that we increase the fence to 8 foot. Did I miss anything from anybody else?
No, not for me. Let me, does anybody think he missed anything? I'm not going to go through it by name, but I think it's all there.
Good to me.
Okay, let's get a second on that.
Second.
All right. Let's have a quick discussion. Let's start out with Mark.
No further comments, thank you.
Okay, Vaughn,
Nope, nothing else, thanks.
Neil. Got anything, Neil? No? You're muted. There you go.
Muted. No further comments.
Okay, thanks. Miles,
No further comments.
Julie,
No.
David,
No further comments.
James.
No further comments.
Bill, obviously it's your motion, so you don't have any. Wendy, can you do a roll call vote?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mizera,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Magro,
Yes.
Kashkarian,
Yes,
Gilo,
Yes,
Malin,
Yes.
Latka,
Yes.
Grishka,
Yes.
DeVry.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much for everybody's patience and good luck, Jim.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, commission members, very much, and have a good night.
Okay, you too, Brian. All right, let's move on to the approval of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes to approve on the May 20th minutes. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to page 1? Page 2? Entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I so move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Opposed?
I
Opposed?
missed who motioned.
2 motions?
Who
No.
motioned?
Oh, who motioned?
Raised. This guy.
Neil,
Got it. Thank you.
and then who seconded?
I did.
And
Jim
Jim.
seconded.
Yep, got it.
Okay. All right. Motion carried unanimously. We'll accept it as written. Can we move on to May 27th minutes? Does anybody have additions or corrections to page 1?
No.
Page 2?
Yes, page 2 at the very first sentence. That makes sense, not sense.
Oh, there you, good catch. Good catch. Anything else there? Yeah, or Miles?
No.
Page 3. Page 4. Okay. Entertain a motion to accept the meetings, the minutes as corrected. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Okay, thanks. Neil. Second is Miles.
Yes.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the minutes for June 10th. Do we have any additions or corrections to page 1? Page 2? Okay, entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Move.
Yvonne moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Neil seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Minutes are approved as written. Move on to planning consultants' remarks. Sheree?
We don't have anything to add, except for the next meeting we have. We're getting up some text amendments to discuss with you.
Okay,
And then meeting everybody in person.
it'll be nice. It'll be nice for
It'll be
everyone.
nice. So I think that's all for tonight.
Okay. Eric, anything? No? Yes. Okay, planning commissioners' remarks. Anybody have anything that they'd like to share with us at this time?
I do.
Go ahead, Bill.
Just noticed on the public hearing notice, that's going to get modified, right? Because we're not meeting virtually anymore.
Yes, yes. You mean the one that we'll be sending out for the August public
July.
hearing?
The July.
Right.
July.
Because it still makes reference to, the whole thing with COVID.
What public hearing notice for July?
Is that, I'm not,
Are you talking about just the regular meeting notice, Bill? Or are you talking
no,
about?
it's the public hearing notice. If you look on page 14, for example, attached to the text revisions, it talks about the actions resulting in COVID. So that we won't be doing virtual meetings anymore. So that notice would get revised accordingly.
Absolutely.
I guess the other thing is, these projects that we've had again in the M2 district become very frustrating to see how things are not being enforced. And if you drive around, and Sheree, I'm looking to you for some advice, it's just not being enforced blatantly. So what happens, and it's been not enforced for a long time. So how do you start to recover from this? Do you ever had to look at it and say it's not working? And what do you have to do? We've been through master plans. It's a point at which you say my plan's not working and you make adjustments. But the simple thing like on Child's Lake where an applicant came in and said, I want to be able to store my boats and my RVs and my trailers. And on the side of it, it's all broken construction equipment, a damaged pickup truck, boxes, storage boxes and things like that. What does it take to start to bring it back in line. If you go drive to the end of King Drive, right after we've had a major fire in the township, look at the cul-de-sac. It's full of combustible material. So I don't know what to do with it.
So the text amendments we do cannot address the existing problems we have. It's just, moving forward, how do we regulate future uses? But we could do this could be a little study session discussion with our attorney and see if there are any legal means to change the enforcement policies. Or we could do a case study of, existing uses, how many sites do we have where we have troubles with, and then identify, a game plan. I feel like Eric wants to add something.
I think like with any topic like this, you first thing you do is you inventory to try to find
Right.
what the pattern is. So is it front yard landscaping? Is it items in the right of way? You try to hit a couple, 4 or 5 focus points. So I think maybe another tour or some more.
Based on what I've seen, Eric, it's more fundamental than that. We're talking about people that have come in and they've gotten permitted, gotten allowed to permit to use their property a certain way, and it just deteriorates from that. And that was what I was alluding to. I drove around. I finally found Fike Drive. I drove down Fike. I drove down Chaz Lake. I drove down King Ranch, and what's going on in those areas is awful, and it's not in compliance with our current ordinances. But we, and Tim will go out there and he'll write them up and he'll work his tail off, and we'll chase around after it, and then we get to court and they throw it out, and it's in clear violation. But we're having difficulty enforcing it, and as a result, every area that we have that's got storage in it is in a shambles. I mean, they're not supposed to have unlicensed trucks or trucks they can't run. And I can take you out and I can point to 100 trucks that don't even have motors in them. It's not even an issue of rewriting the ordinances.
So
They're in
from
violation.
From an enforcement perspective, like Tim and I could sit down tomorrow and give you a list of your worst offenders.
Sure.
And I could talk to Scott, your prosecutor, and tell you exactly what the judges are doing with those violations. So what has been helpful in the past, over the past 20 something years, every so many few years, the community sit down with the 52nd First judges and try and emphasize the importance of allowing the communities to uphold their ordinances, because they don't give as much credibility, I guess, as they should. So what may look like we're not enforcing our ordinances, we are, but we only go to district court.
I think we're enforcing them. I just think that we're failing at the court level for some reason.
And they're only civil infractions. So a lot of these people are like, fine, give me a $50 ticket. I don't care. I mean, that's the reality of it. It's a zoning ordinance violation. So we have gone to circuit court and with real bad actors in the past, but realistically, you can't spend $50,000 for every property in the township to pursue circuit court action against them. And it's an unfortunate.
Is it possible to sue them for costs?
And that doesn't happen. The judges don't award that in circuit court.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know how to get around it, because
we have a very bad situation.
We do.
Terrible.
We could work with the staff and the attorney and see if we can come up with a game plan at the next meeting. We could probably look at the site maintenance agreement and see what the terms and conditions are. Maybe, emphasize on some maintenance items there, provide some ability for Tim or fire marshal to go for, intermediate inspections so that it doesn't consider trespassing. So we could take a look at what we have right now as our enforcement tools and see what we can do to give us a little bit more, not power per se, but backup.
I could be wrong, but I think if we were successful with one resident, one situation, I think it would help us move on the other ones, and I think it might send a message. So maybe we should just concentrate on one and just hammer at it and just get that done and just go after the next one. And I agree with Jennifer, we can't spend $50,000 per site, but at some point in time, we need to draw a line and try to figure out what we want to be when we grow up. It's tough and it's not easy. But
I mean, look at Milford Salvage. We've been trying to enforce against them for 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
I'm surprised.
So
that
Jennifer,
RCMC
in that situation, Jennifer, there is a semi truck parked in Oakland County right away.
Right.
It's been there for months.
And what is
Now behind it is another trailer with a collapsed vehicle on top of it. It's in the right of way.
Right.
That's
So
a health
the road
safety
commission.
issue. Pardon?
That's the road commission.
and they won't even do anything about it.
Right. I mean, it's
So-
like it's so frustrating. And being in the township too, because you
Wait
are,
till a car slams in the middle of the night because we don't have any lights out there and the speed limit's 55 miles an hour.
right.
So that's what we wait for. Because it's
Can
very
they,
possible
can they,
to do that.
can something like that be cited by the police department as opposed to an ordinance change? If there's a semi, and I know which semi truck you're talking about, it's a Mack semi with a big tandem dump.
Yeah.
There certainly
can't-
are.
Can't they be cited with a ticket rather than a ordinance violation?
Yeah, if it's impeding traffic in any way, if it's a safety hazard, if there's several different, I don't know if Chief Lindbergh's looked at any of this. Tim, do you know any of that? Has he?
You muted, Tim.
You're still muted. There you go. I don't know if Chief Lindbergh's looked at it.
I mean, it could be worthy to send him out there and look at it, because if there are, tickets he can issue, he will. Send him out.
I have.
And how about the press?
Yeah, I mean,
It's always a
absolutely.
possibility.
You have to use, because they're not your roads and because a lot of stuff is out of your control as a township, you have to use resources like that, the press and the police and,
Do we know anybody in the press that we could take them for a ride? I'd be willing to do that because there are issues that are very obvious, and Milford Salvage is the obvious one. I mean, it's just a matter of like pick one and fix it, and work on it, and don't work on the other ones. Just hammer away at one. I don't know if even that's a good idea, Jennifer. I mean, you'd know better than me.
We've done that, like we did that with the crane company, McAllister, and I can't even tell you how many different things they've violated, not just outdoor storage, but sanitary sewer and blah. I mean, like they're bad actors.
Is EPA a possibility to have EPA come out to Milford Salvage and put in some ground sensors to figure out, because that he's probably in the last 30 years has probably dumped a few thousand gallons of oil.
Just by the nature of the building, just by the nature of the equipment.
It wouldn't be the EPA, it would be the DEQ. The federal government wouldn't get involved, but
They've been there.
They've been.
Ronnie Miller's no violations. The neighbor requested it because they claimed groundwater contamination of their well.
Mm-hmm.
And DEQ found nothing wrong with Ronnie Miller's site. Ronnie Miller's site caught on fire and was investigated by the Oakland County arson, and nothing happened.
What's going on here, Tim?
I
mean, when the water lights on fire, you got a problem.
I'm saying that they did their report. Ronnie, you talked to Ronnie Miller about that report. It cost him a fortune to, I don't know if you fight that or comply with that or do your, pay for water samples and monitoring wells. but that came out of Ronnie's pocket and he's still mad about it and happened 10 years ago.
Well, if you do it
Well,
again, maybe
I'm
you'll be mad
familiar with,
again.
I'm familiar with Trenton and downriver. And I know communities that get stuck with brownfield sites, big brownfield sites that are on the super list of getting cleaned up, and they're stuck in their community. So that's the situation today, but someday that will cease to be a salvage yard.
But
The
you guys
problem
are-
that we have will be the same problem that we have with the dump. It'll be in our community, it'll be contaminated. I don't know what they did, but it just reeks that it's contaminated. So I don't know what they tested for, gas, oil. So it's just frustrating to go through all of this work and to listen to people tell you that everything's going to be good, and it's not good. We talk about, being able to see from residential. Look down into Fike Drive. We created that. We allowed that to happen. So that's all I got.
Okay.
Don't we really need this inventory that you're talking about, and then sit down, develop a strategy about what to do about it?
Right. I know we talked about, the master plan update at the last meeting, like doing a very quick update. This could be part of that too, like doing an area study for industrial areas in Milford.
Okay.
But all that's going to do, and Jim's on the line, is meet with the same opposition we met with probably 3 times in the past, and nothing happens.
Right.
In the
I mean,
past, when the ordinance was developed, there was a gentleman that worked with Door Doctor, and an association of the people in that zone got together and were going to monitor themselves. And it worked for a while, and then it failed badly. So, and that's not all of them. There are good developers down there. There are people that have come in. Aerolift came in, worked with us. They have a nice site. But then there's some really bad players too, and it's getting very frustrating to understand there's nothing we can do about it in our township.
I don't think if I said there's nothing you can do about it, I didn't mean that. We are doing a lot about it. We have always done a lot about it, but the response that we get from the entities in control are not favorable. So
The bottom line is nothing happens.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's not for lack of trying.
I'm not saying it's that at all. Tim tries very hard, but
all you guys try hard,
got what we got.
But
So it's a
maybe
redevelopment zone.
maybe talking to the press is the deal.
Yeah. When you create a redevelopment zone, what is that? When you come into an area of slummed area, dilapidated houses, you put a circle around it and say, this is a redevelopment zone, and there's monies available to redevelop.
Let me put our thoughts together, and then we'll talk with Tim and with the township administration, and then provide a summary at the next meeting.
All right. Yeah, put that on, Wendy, put that on the agenda for the next meeting. The next planning commission meeting, not the ordinance meeting.
Okay.
And that,
Yeah, that's
Jennifer,
good. Okay, I was gonna say
think-
the second meeting in July. The first one is right there.
The second, yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Vaughn.
Well, the thought about sitting down with the jurists staff, the lawyer staff.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Yep.
we'll do that every few years, and they do get a little more aggressive enforcing the ordinances for a while. Like what Bill just
Well-
said, where the group was self-policing for a little while. Then you might get a new judge, or then they just fall off, or they become focused on something else.
Well, then you got to do it again. That's
Yeah,
all.
we haven't done it in a while, so that might be a good thing.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Scott about it because we, have half the communities in the court, so.
Yeah.
It's better to come up with a solution than have to keep writing and taking court time to come up with nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're definitely the ones that hold all the power, so they'd be the people to talk to.
And I'm sure some of those judges were probably planning commission members somewhere at some time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Rob Bondi's one of them. He's a developer.
I just didn't want to.
Probably on the wrong end of the, probably.
Oh, I mean, there's 3 judges.
Yeah.
Okay,
They know development and they know, community regulations. They understand.
all I
All
got.
right. All right. Let's see, anybody else, any of the commissioners have anything else like to share?
Can I make one comment, please?
Are you a commissioner?
No.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Wendy.
I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that your next planning commission meeting is going to be on the 8th. It is going to be in person. The packets are actually going to be delivered next Tuesday, a day early, and then I'll be out of town until the 7th. So
Okay.
holiday week.
All right. Well,
Is that, and that one's gonna be and that one's gonna be
at the township hall.
at the township on the 8th?
At the township. And if you're wanting to have a laptop to be able to look at your documents instead of having your paper packet in front of you, just give me that heads up so that I can have the laptop set up and you'll just go into a login at your seat.
Okay,
Speaking of seats, I think we have new chairs too.
do we? Ooh.
Well, the old one is out in the lobby for sale.
Well, that's from our small conference room, which is now Tim's new office. And
Ooh.
yeah, we're working on getting the new chairs, but we don't have the new chairs yet. You still have the red ones.
Just to let you know, I won't be at the next meeting. I've got some minor surgery scheduled for the 7th, and I don't think you're gonna want to see me with a large bandage over my nose.
Okay.
No, you're excused.
Thank you.
We'll miss you though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, anything else from the commissioners? Accept a motion to adjourn. Second,
Second.
all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.
Happy
Night, all.
Fourth of July.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Oh,
meeting.
Julie.
I'm past my bedtime.